Yeah, it is. I mean, and this is why toxic men, it's such a different problem than toxic women.
Mm-hmm.
Because toxic women stems from, I believe, there are never any consequences. So why be good? You're actually rewarded for being a piece of shit human
Mm-hmm.
in the shadow heart way. The shadow heart method gets you a very comfortable life where nothing is your fault.
And like, look, there is a contradiction. You know, we were talking about Jonathan Major's
Yeah.
girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, and how we're we both judge her for running out crying hysterically. But
Yeah.
at the
And
same
that
time,
doesn't mean he wasn't a piece of shit to her.
no, but like
Yeah.
at the same time, when Amber Heard sat on the stand just crying in a certain way and dabbing at her eyes, she
Yeah.
gets judged for that too. Just to be very clear, I think Amber Heard is a piece of shit and
Yeah.
terrible person. So I'm not saying this to justify her, but it's like at the same time, I'm pointing out there isn't really a way of winning.
But it's also, there are certain emotions that seem authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are emotions that seem performative.
Yes.
Unfortunately, as a society, we are really shitty at telling the difference. I mean, the
God,
thing
yes.
about the Jonathan Majors thing, when she said, I was heartbroken, that's why I went clubbing. Right after you've been attacked, having been in those situations where somebody just suddenly turned
Yeah.
and came at me, and afterwards I was like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened? It wasn't I was heartbroken, it was holy shit. It is very scary, and it is very upsetting that a person you trusted, a person you, I don't think they were together enough for it to really be love, but
Mm-hmm.
obsession. He's an actor, she was a motion coach. um so there is a bit of a status thing there, but yes, it's heartbreaking, but that's what you feel later. That's not what you feel at the time. And the fact that no media questioned that,
And
you
like
know,
that
and
that that's
and apparently, from cops I've talked to, the thing you want to hear from a guy who didn't do it is, I did not do this, which is of course what the left says. Oh, you're denying it, you're invalidating. But if somebody's just like, what? They don't have a reason, they don't have an explanation. It's just, I did not do this. And I've been in that circumstance where the hi Stalker Chan, Stalker Chan, she comes up with some whoppers about me, and my first reaction is, what? No. And the fact that people say, well, did you do it? It's like, the fact that you would think that about me at all, get the fuck out of my face. After all of this, the fact that people are still asking me if this ludicrous shit, reader shit, it does no, please don't, but it doesn't even make any sense. She accuses me of, she claims I made her kill her. I told her to kill herself. Except if you read what she actually said, she said she had a falling out with me, and then other people told her to kill herself. That must be my fault. And people don't question, because woman, and she's masquerading as a trans woman, twofer, you know. uh,
mm-hmm.
Nobody questions it. But when it's a guy and he loses it, it's, why didn't you do this, why didn't you do this? It's almost like the inverse of when a woman gets raped. It's about what she was wearing, it's about this, it's about that. With men, and where and that's where a lot of toxic feminine behavior comes from, right? If the only correct answer is be a victim,
Mm-hmm.
that's how you win. Of course Taylor Swift is going to become person of the year. She is the embodiment of ideal femininity at this time.
And it's interesting because even the article was such a puff piece.
Well, they always
And
is, but yeah.
and well, yeah, but it's like I was telling you, the writer was half an inch away from just falling on his knees and going, "Yes, Queen,
Yeah.
slay."
Yeah. Well,
And
that was clearly the assignment, right? They
yeah,
wanted that to be things that the teen girls go out and um and buy. It will sell magazines. It was the right call. That was just a marketing piece. But
Oh yeah.
then
But
men,
but
sorry,
so
go ahead. Yeah, finish your thought, and
so
then I'll move on.
so yeah, one of the things is, she talks about, like I said before, how Kanye and Kim, or Kim Kardashian specifically, leaking that call created just, it completely shattered her world and she felt awful. You lost control of your narrative. That's why you weren't happy about it, ma'am.
That does track.
Yes, but then she talks about how awful it was. And the writer actually says, well, from the outside, it didn't look like that. It looked more like a superstar who leveraged the situation to her advantage, which is exactly what happened. And the writer was like, I almost said that, but I decided not to, because who am I to tell her that her feelings aren't valid?
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly those words, but it was still pretty much those words.
And that's a great segue into where I was going with, Taylor Swift, perfect girl, Shadowheart, perfect girl, toxic as fuck. We
Oh
can
yeah.
draw equivalencies, and this is why I think men get so sensitive when you say toxic masculinity, because toxic masculinity and ideal masculinity sure look a lot alike. Because who do we put up on pedestals in our society? They tend to be not Elon Musk. Holy shit. I'm trying to think of, because I'm not really in touch with certain things. I mean, I do think the Jared Leto Joker is kind of an example there.
Mm-hmm.
But we do, this idea that men are supposed to just get whipped emotionally again
Mm-hmm.
and again and again and not say anything. It's become so internalized that there was a big blow up when a guy was like, men just have to take it. Men just have to take it from women. And all the women involved were saying, no, you don't. Get up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true that no decent woman expects a man to take it. The complication goes when a guy hits 30 not knowing how to express his feelings, and when he first starts does it very, very badly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the fucked up part of society that I am doing everything I can to fix, and I'm painted as a fucking villain everywhere for doing it. Because the only way I hear from guys over and over and over again, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. But I know that when you first point it out to these guys, they're going to argue with you and be
Yeah.
very wounded and be really embarrassed. And you do have to stay on them through that, not abusively and not yelling at them, just, yep, I understand, but that was still not okay. Yep,
Yeah.
I still understand, but that was still not okay. And then you get accused of beating up on the guy. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And it's just a question of, is it beating up when they said, this is what I need? I have to have my mistakes pointed out to me. Everybody says, I'd rather be wrong. I'd rather be told I'm wrong. I'd rather people tell me what I'm doing wrong.
It's easy to say that,
It's
but like,
easy to
let's be
say.
honest. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
being told you're wrong is never fun.
And unfortunately, there's this thing where people can go an opinion shop and go, oh, no. And you'll always be able to find a woman who will be, she doesn't understand you. Oh, shit. That's early Taylor Swift, isn't it?
Oh, fuck.
You'll always find a woman. Don't you see that I'm the one? I retroactively, that song is so fucking toxic.
Oh, God, it is.
Doesn't understand you like I do. Like,
it's like, okay, on one hand, I hate the term pick me because it's really overused.
okay, but let's face
But at the
it.
same time, it's a very, when used properly, it is a very valid term, because
But
there are
also,
girls who absolutely are.
let's face it, that popular girl in school is doing it so that the boy every girl wants to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
It just I really thought that song was cute when it came out, because I'm like, oh wow, that was the girl I didn't even have the guts to be, because I was so low down the pecking order, I didn't even hope for
See,
that
like
kind of shit.
I totally get that. And
Yeah.
that's when people try to claim that so much of the criticism of her is misogyny, they don't look at, like I was saying, part of it was she got older, her songs didn't catch up right away. They've
Yeah.
started to because she had to,
Yeah.
because she couldn't maintain that innocent image. But it was cute at the time. But at the same time, it's every time I see a book or something where it does the whole I'm not like other girls,
Yeah.
which is what that song is when you boil it down. So much of it is, oh, I do this, I do that. And I'm like, so you're a basic Becky. I'm
Well, but
sorry. But
it's also, if you're a guy's friend
Mhm.
and you think his girlfriend is abusing him, that shouldn't just be your concern because you want to be the one to abuse him. You should care about him as a friend and not just because you want him for yourself.
And I mentioned listening to Dido again recently, and she has a song where it's all about, look, I get this breakup was hard for you, but we're going to open the curtains, we're going to go for a walk. You can wear anything as long as it's not black. Let's
Yeah.
just get you outside.
Yeah.
And there's nothing romantic about it. It's just, hey, I know this is hard for you. And there is a bit of, well, you once told me this was worth dying for, so just be grateful you knew her at all. So
Well,
let's get
that's
you
a
through
hell of a
it.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like overall, aside from that little bit, it
Yeah.
it
But
it
that,
is.
I mean, let's face it, that is, I know a lot of guys who they had a bad breakup 20 years ago
Mhm.
and it's still haunting them. And this is something I have to be very, very careful not to be glib about, because the the woman made a choice
Mhm.
and the guy is racking his brain trying to figure out what he did wrong. And the truth is, sometimes you did nothing wrong. She made a choice to leave instead of having a tough conversation.
Mhm.
Period. End of story. And guys, and that's why, even though I get heavily criticized when a guy is not being appropriate, I am very clear, because I'm so used to the implied bitch.
Mhm.
Like, when the helpful people are like, well, maybe you went a little hard on them, or would you like some suggestions about how to handle it next time? And that's the moment of, I actually say to people, do I have a choice? And people will go, what a bitch. And it's like, no, I am being honest. Bitchy would be being passive aggressive and going, oh, I'd love to hear your feedback, and then going and trashing the people, to anyone who would listen, about how, the Taylor Swift thing, how patriarchal and misogynistic they are. Oh, you criticized a woman for not being nice enough, and whereas I'm like, do I have a choice?
And here's the thing. Bitch is again a valid term, just like pick me is. The problem is
It gets misapplied. Yeah.
what guys describe as bitchy.
Is actually
That's not the
somebody.
actual bitchy behavior.
No, it's not.
Because
It's,
again, you and I have talked about how women in private and
yep.
things they'll say and do and how they'll treat another woman, that is a whole other thing. And that is when I tend to use that word.
Trust me, guys, you want her saying it to your face.
Oh yeah.
But
No, and it's like that is the thing with guys, where it's like, guys, if they have a problem, they'll tell you to your face. And
sometimes
you do this as well. But
that's
yeah.
that's changing. And this is what I noticed, that with a lot of these guys that keep getting in trouble again and again and again, there is the cycle of, I want people to tell me where I'm making a mistake, and then I will tell them, and then I find out that they've been uh, playing, oh, I'm so, not I'm so hurt. It's this male equivalent of opinion shopping, where they'll give a skewed version of what happened. Did I do anything wrong? And of course, it's the whole bro code of, no, you didn't do anything wrong, man. She's a bitch. Stand up for yourself. You got to be real careful. The story's only as reliable as the person telling you it.
See, this is a theory, and maybe it's something I should have brought up to you
Yeah.
privately instead of bringing it here, but
Oh, no, good content.
okay. A lot of the toxicity we are seeing in general nowadays is what is considered typical feminine toxicity.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if, because we do have a lot of boys who are raised by single mothers who are now coming to be men, and they do exhibit a lot of these feminine toxic traits.
You know what? There are young people, God, they're in their 20s, but they come from 2-parent homes.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, I hate using the word coddled,
Mm-hmm.
but they have been allowed to get to a certain age where they have developed some, the fancy word is maladaptive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so embarrassing to admit that and this is where I was getting at, was saying, you gotta sometimes hold the guy's feet to the fire patiently and compassionately for his own good, because it is so embarrassing to these guys to admit that they're so far down the road and no one told them. No one told them the impacts
Mm-hmm.
of what they were doing. It is embarrassing. It's really hard, as somebody who had to, completely relearn the way I did everything in my late 20s, early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard. It's humiliating. And because, when you've got that combination of humiliation and a real lack of an emotional vocabulary and a sort of sheltering from failure during adolescence, it's catastrophic. It's really hard. And I think a lot of the, like, let's face it, there's a lot of toxic male behavior among allies.
Mm-hmm.
The way women are depicted in progressive media created by men, if you really break it down, I am more comfortable with a lot of, this is going to sound awful, but I read some of the samples of, the Comicsgate comics and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are exactly what they're intended to be. And a lot of them are really terrible, and people working something out, and they just scream, why won't girls like me? To me. And if you look, this is why. But
Yeah.
that doesn't chill me the way some of this progressive stuff does, like
Mm-hmm.
like The Last of Us 2, which, let's face it, is somebody, is a male creator grappling with his own toxicity and his own self-loathing, claiming to lift up women, when, let's face it, The Last of Us 2 is a really, really bloody extended failure of the Bechdel test.
And that's another thing that's interesting, is it's like you said, he was working out toxic masculinity Thank you, she who shall not be named right
Yeah.
now. But it also brought out a whole other kind of fetishization.
Yeah,
in Abby.
But I mean, let's face it. Abby and Ellie fight over Abby's father, Joel, and Lev. They never talk about anything that's not a man.
Yeah.
You know, even Dina and Ellie, they're either talking about the ex-boyfriend or Dina's son. Like, it's like, oh my God. It is so like, why?
And look, most of the time, I think the Bechdel test is shit.
Oh, it's not
Like,
a scientific test.
Yeah,
it's just a funny thing. Yeah.
No, I don't care. I've recently read a romance novel I actually enjoyed. Oh my God, it was amazing. But the author does a lot of reels on like Instagram and TikTok and stuff. And one of her series is like different genres of romance novels having conversations.
Right.
And like contemporary romances. I think we should try and pass the Bechdel test. And fantasy and historical are both like, but why would we do that when men are so nice?
And that's the thing. I am not a big believer in any of these pass fail litmus tests.
Yeah.
I do, however, believe that if a creator claims to support the test, their work should reflect that.
That's the key point. Is it's like if this is the standard you claim to hold, then you need to meet it yourself.
Yeah, like you can't say, "Oh, Anita Sarkeesian so inspired me," and then have Abby having a completely meaningless sex scene.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's the thing I kept saying. No ass, no butt, no problem. That's the trope, right? It's the Taylor Swift thing. It's the Abby thing. No ass, no boobs, no problem. It's not sexualization if it's that sort of thing. This is so misogynistic. I'm going to say right out, she's not attractive. Therefore, I am smart to fetishize her.